My goodness, this looks like it's on. All right, folks, welcome. It's Wednesday, and I know that it is early. Normally, live stream Wednesdays would happen a half an hour from now, and then it's slowly like ratchet it back to 15 minutes to the hour, and then you will see that today it is 30 minutes before the time, the normal time. But that's just how it is. If you are in the chat today, I see there's a few of you. Please confirm that you can hear and see and all of the things, so I will not worry about them. The things that I plan to chat about today are the elephant in the room, right? The updates. We can commiserate about that. There is Zach confirming that we have eyes and ears on, which is awesome. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about my trip to San Diego, to Carlsbad, because I did get invited to the Ezoic conference that they were holding that culminated their content week. And yeah, it was interesting for so many ways. First of all, as people are rolling in, I'm just going to give them some time. I'm going to waffle and talk about the travel. Those of you who saw my random, like disorganized, sort of like live on my other channel, I can't actually stream from my phone on this channel yet because it's too small, and that's okay because this channel has served its purpose. It's here for me to shoot the breeze and then not worry about my analytics stats on the main channel, because the live streams can mess with the main channel analytics for my other videos. So I'm happy being here, happy to do this with folks that actually want to be here. But I did travel to San Diego, and for me, it was the first time I have traveled anywhere since out of state since COVID got started. And it's definitely the first time that I went anywhere on a plane. And I will admit to feeling uncomfortable. All these people were like everywhere, and like right next to me, and yeah. And I was wearing a mask, and nobody was wearing a mask. And it's fine if you want to wear a mask or don't want to wear a mask, like whatever. But I was wearing a mask, and I just felt weird with like all the people, because look at my office, right? Like normally my office looks like this. And so it was very strange. But one of the coolest things about going down to this event, aside from traveling, is that I got to meet a bunch of folks that I have been talking to for years now, but actually in person for the first time. So I got to sit down and hang out with Alex from the WP Eagle YouTube channel, and he was great. And I sat and talked to Carl Broadbent multiple times. He just turned out to be the loveliest, like nicest guy, and super easy to talk to. And actually, when I was feeling sometimes intimidated by either the people or just the crowds, like crowds of people, it was pretty easy to sit next to him and like feel comfortable. So that was awesome. And I also got to hang out with Fix. Those of you who do not follow our friend Fix, his name is Stuart in real life, but we just call him Fix because that's what he calls himself. And it was great to talk to someone else who was in the similar boat as far as like where we are with our businesses, and also having families. Like he has a young family. And so those were some of the highlights. I also got to hang out with Shauna Newman, and she was, I mean, basically everybody was really nice. It'll be the same routine of me explaining, I met so-and-so and they were really nice. And then I met so-and-so also really nice. Like I sat next to, during the conference, I sat between like a sandwich between Ben Adler of Keyword Chef and then John Gillum from one of the founders of Motion Invest. And I spent a whole day just sitting right there and like making small talk, and then like going like this whenever somebody was like, what do you think about that? And like, anyway, it was it was sort of surreal. Yes, I see our friend Keith rolling in. He said smash the like button, and I do agree, but you may also press it like kindly. That's fine too. I also see Zach rolling in, and Dee and Adrian, Leslie, Joanne, Leona. Thanks, friends, for dropping in. If you are lurking and working this morning, that's totally fine. You're welcome to announce your presence today or not. I will say that I did meet several publishers at this event who were not familiar with me. I'm sure there's many people out in the world who are not familiar with me, and they were like, what are you what are you about? Like, what's your website? And I was like, well, I don't actually share that. And they're like, oh, really? Because they don't like mingle in the YouTube space where people try to take all of your ideas and your keywords and your livelihood anytime you disclose anything. So I was like, oh, I don't ever actually share that. And I'm actually on YouTube, and that's kind of what I do. I think that's why I'm here. I don't know. But some of them, I did talk about this live stream as a place for people to gather and to chat. And so some of those folks may eventually find their way here. And if you are here and you are lurking, you are welcome to lurk. And if you are lurking and working, you're also welcome to do so. It helps if you tell us that you're here and if you participate. But if you don't want to, then that's okay too. For those of you who are in the chat, we're a couple minutes in and people are slowly rolling in. You know the drill. I'm looking for accountability moments, like what did you get done this week? What worked for you? What didn't? Are you currently marinating in alcohol because of what's going on with the Google right now? I really don't drink that much, so I can't really fall back on that right now, but I feel like doing it. Every morning you get up and you check the stats and like, oh, like, oh, is today the day when things are going to be back? And it's like, no, it's actually worse than yesterday. Put up your hand if that is you, because basically I feel like every day lately, since about Thursday, it just looks worse than it did the day before. And that's just how it is right now. There is Josh. Josh Coop was another friend that I did get to meet on purpose in person. And he was also lovely and extremely nice. And I was glad to have met you, Josh, in person. And I hope that one day it will happen again. I did not get a chance to say, goodbye, adios, all those things. Maybe you were on a plane really early in the morning. But I hope we run into each other again. He said on purpose. Zach says, so we're most of the people that are public with their sites always assumed we overweight how common secrecy is just because of the crowd we see so often. So yes, there were a lot of people who were very open about their sites, like they announced themselves. And this is what I think is interesting. And maybe this is one of the differences between us and them, because most of these publishers who were not on YouTube were very large, like lots of traffic, like lots of money, lots of success, and also very old. Like many of them had sites that were, 15 plus years old, and they had been working on them all that time, right? And the difference from us is that we think of these sites often as like digital properties. We don't necessarily think of them as a business. And we talk all the time about how the transition from a side hustle to a business really needs to happen for people to really get serious and probably reach that next echelon of success. But a lot of these people, this was their only site, right? They had worked on one site. They had not started a new site in years. They didn't even know how to go about it because they had worked on this other site for so long. And then they were proud, like, hey, I'm John Smith from da-da-da-da-da.com. Like they didn't necessarily expect me to know, but like that was their brand. There were some of these publishers who not only was this their brand, but they had business cards with their website on it. So their picture, their name, like I'm so-and-so from this brand, and they were passing them out. Like we should connect. Like not only were they free with their sites and what they were about, but they were like giving you evidence in case you were like writing them down to just because that was their brand. It's a business for them. And it's not like this thing that they do, sometimes like it's really a different perspective shift from folks that are just getting started now. And maybe, and most likely when these folks started 20 years ago, back before WordPress is what it is today. Some people started back before any of the modern tools that we use today were being used, like, Fire. But it's such a different mindset, right? Is a lot of people now are starting sites, putting their first articles up with the plan maybe to pump and dump. Like if it doesn't take off, I'll just trash it. That's not what you would do with a shoe shop. If you were to go outside and start a brick and mortar shoe shop, you wouldn't be like, oh, hey, I'll try this for a month. I'll dump a bunch of money into it. And then if it doesn't take off, I'm like, whatever. and it was just really clear that there was a really different mindset for these folks who had been in it for a long time and were very successful. And it was nice, I guess I should say, to be around folks that were so serious. And I talked to a lot of publishers about maybe selling. Like I asked them, I was like, why, you're holding, and there, there's a lot of volatility, and some of these folks were seeing some impacts from updates, and I was like, does this make you feel any pressure to, to sell, to try to take your profits off the table and start over? And a lot of them were like, oh my God, like starting over, starting with a new site, like that seemed overwhelming to them versus having operating a site that had maybe 20, 30, 40,000 posts on it, which seems overwhelming to me. I mean, I start a new site, every 6 months or every year, even though I'm trying to stop doing that. And I'm just so addicted to seeing a site, take its first steps. But people are just in such a different place, and it was refreshing. I guess I'm saying to have to be around some folks that were so established and confident and comfortable with themselves and their brands to talk about them. One of the highlights for me, so there were a lot of guys there. I mean, I know there are a lot of guys here, and I also know there are a lot of women that are in this space, but there weren't necessarily tons of women there. And so when I hung out with Shauna and her partner for one of the dinners, and it was just nice to hang out with some ladies. And then another gal that I really was impressed by, her name is Audrey Johns, and she just straight up shared it. And she's straight up on Facebook as herself, as her Facebook page and her website. It was loseweightbyeating.com. And she's like written books and been on the Today Show and all this stuff. And I basically just wanted to sit next to her the entire time. Partially because I felt like there was a lot to be learned there, but also because her energy was so positive and so focused on just making the business work. And there wasn't any of this like, oh, like if this doesn't work today, I'll start a new thing. It was just, this is really her thing. And I really wanted to just talk more about her business and, like other, women with families. And so those were some of the highlights. So if Audrey, if you ever pop in on this or catch us on the replay, you have been invited. Please let us know that you were here, and I just thought you were lovely. I see Josh going back to the comment about him like sneaking out. He said, life is too busy. I had to jet early as can be. Fair enough. And there's Sonia. Sonia, so how are you writing out this update? I was wondering and worried about you because I know that the last update, which update, whichever one, there was one in the past that sucked you in a bit, and I was curious to hear and see how things were going, because I know you had continued to publish and we were all on the stay the course plan, and I just wanted to hear if you had managed to do that. Zach, going back to talking about larger websites, long-term websites, he says that's where he wants to be, and I think that's where we should all be really aiming for. I mean, it's great to run a portfolio of sites. People have 10, 20, 30, 40 sites, but eventually if you want to make something really large, it just doesn't seem that it's really possible by diverting your resources over here and over here and over here and over here and over here to really go somewhere. Josh said it was really different, and in some cases much more healthy. I do feel like those folks, well, they maybe didn't like swim in SEO all the time, and definitely didn't swim in the Twitterverse, the SEO Twitter and all these places where you're like up to date. And maybe they didn't necessarily focus on some of the SEO, I'm going to say tools, tricks, all of the things. They were just really focused on the things that were making their site work, which was on content, publishing a lot of content, working with their writers, just not so obsessive about trying to find the next big thing, the next gold rush. Like, what's the best niche? Like, there's so much time being wasted by me, trying to figure out the thing that might work better than the thing that I'm doing now. And it's good, I think, to get out and mingle with people who are different. So even though it was hard for me, and I felt like I was going to, I was anxious about being out in crowds because, let's face it, that's me a little bit. Nowadays, I'm out of practice of doing it. It was good to have gone, especially during a time when Google was doing its like up and down thing, because then I wasn't just staring at analytics like over here on my screen over there. That's what's up. I'm looking at the analytics report for the last week and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Checking the chat. Margaret rolling in. How are you, Margaret? It's good to see you there. It says, keeping us on our toes with these times. Yes, well, I'm committed to coming on every Wednesday around the same time. And sometimes it means like lightly massaging the start time so that I can actually have enough time to talk, because otherwise it'll be like, hey, here's the update. I gotta go. See you later. And I just wanted to actually be here, not be rushing out, like to actually try to get to a whole hour. Oh my goodness. Sonia says that her traffic recovered. That is like a virtual high five. If you are in the chat, hashtag high five or congratulations to Sonia. I know you were super stressed out and sad or disappointed or depressed about the last update, and I'm so happy for you. Now, we know that it could swing the other way because we have no idea what Google is going to do next, but it is just so cool to hear that somebody did actually have something positive happen as a result of the update. So I'm thrilled for you. That is amazing. Eric is in the chat. What's going on? Eric says, so you're starting the stream about 30 minutes earlier? Yes. I actually did try to get on earlier this morning and put up the thumbnail so folks could see that it was scheduled a little early. And I'm sorry for those of you who are hoping to get here from the beginning to end or to be first. Life is just a lot right now. And I'm not willing to just skip the stream. That's just not an option for me. So coming on a little early is the compromise. I can't help myself. I know. I literally can't. So here are some of the other takeaways then from the Ezoic 22, and they called it Ezoic 22, I think, because it's the year. I'm curious to see if next year it will be Ezoic 22 or Ezoic 23. I think they're planning on doing it again. So some of the things that I definitely took away from this is that video needs to be a larger component of what I am working on. And part of the reason that Ezoic is doing this is because they're launching some new tools. They're launching Humix, which is their video platform, and Flickify, which is their tool that Ezoic users can use to make faceless videos or even voiceover videos. And I didn't find necessarily the tools themselves really the thing that got me going in my brain. It was the stats. You know, they did this big lead up. A couple of the presenters did a big lead up where they, you know, showed the bar graphs of like how many YouTube videos are being consumed and like looking at the age groups, right? And how many, not just, you know, people consuming them, but uploading them, and like TikTok, and like looking at the age groups, right? And mostly the largest group of folks who are consuming video content are young people, right? That people aren't necessarily in our, they're not our avatar yet because they don't have money for the most part. They're, you know, their parents are paying for their cell phones and paying for their living expenses. But eventually those 14 to 18-year-olds are going to be 18 to 24-year-olds, and then 24 to 30, and then so on. And so looking at this long term, it just was like a slap in the face. Like, we have to start thinking more about video and what that looks like, because the folks that are focused heavily on video are going to be hitting our market being probably middle-aged people with money in the next 10 years. Like, it's going to slowly grow, but this focus on written content, which many of us have because many of us are building niche sites that are monetized with written info content for ads or for affiliate stuff, like going to video is going to become more and more important to remain competitive in this type of business, right? Making money off of ads or affiliate content. And I mean, it's great that Ezoic has what they think of as a solution for that. But I think a lot of us need to start thinking about what that looks like for us. Like, does it look like starting a YouTube channel and being the face of it? Does it look like starting a YouTube channel and doing faceless videos? Does it look like Facebook or Instagram Reels, or does it look like TikTok, or does it look like creating a course with video content and starting to market that? we're looking at the content that we've already created that is written and converting it um, into a video form of some kind and figuring out how to monetize it. I just like that's something that I've been really marinating on since like the whole conference, and then since coming home, is how to do more with video. I have never started a niche specific YouTube channel aside from this one, because YouTube for me, like making video for me, was such a it was such a difficult shift for me because I'm not a video person. I didn't have any editing skills. I didn't know any of the tools. I was completely uncomfortable with going on camera, which is strange now because I'm sitting here like making faces and my house is, I've clearly gotten over some of my anxiety and drama, but never actually gone all in on one of those things. And I know many people in our space are in our space because we don't want to be the face of something. Like we don't want to necessarily put ourselves out there and leave ourselves open for the potential criticism, the negativity, the instant response, like armchair warriors who are sitting there with their phone and feel like they can say whatever they want because who's going to stop them and who's going to, I don't want to say discipline them, but who's coming for them? Like nobody. People say things on their phones or on YouTube that they would never, ever, ever say to someone's face because they would get punched in the face, right? They don't want to die. But they feel comfortable doing it on phones, and who really wants to open themselves up to that? And I definitely didn't. I will say though, having done it, that the amount of critical comments was less than I expected. There were definitely some, and were and are definitely some, but I've gotten used to it. And I was on Twitter because I'm on Twitter and occasionally post something completely inane that nobody should like or follow. But I saw a quote had rolled through on my Facebook when I was totally on task and not being distracted or procrastinating. And it talked about how we need to not internalize critiques from people that we wouldn't go to for advice. And that was like, that's been rolling around, like bouncing around in my head. All sorts of ways in the last week since I thought of that, because a lot of us do. A lot of us will accept criticism from strangers, right? People who say, you know, why are you on YouTube? Or your eyes are weird, or, you know, fix your teeth, or you're too old, or, you know, you should dye your hair, and all these things. But these aren't people that I know. Why should I let people I don't know actually influence anything? Anything. I mean, it's great. Maybe they have like an actual like meaty critique on the actual video that is worthwhile to pay attention to, but in most cases people are just writing like inane crap, and there's no reason to internalize any of that. And I think some of it is my imposter syndrome screaming at me, because in the back of my mind I think I don't belong here, I'm not good enough to be here, and you know, that's like the refrain in my brain. And I know that I'm not alone. You may not put up your hand and say that's me also, but I know many people in the chat right now, live or on the replay, watching this later, feel that way also. And it's prevented them from taking advantage of some of the other opportunities that are in this space. And I just had that come to like that moment where I just acknowledged inside myself that it's time, that it is time. And it's great to be pushing out 100 articles of new content every month, because that's what I've been doing. But I need to move that towards 100 pieces of not just written content, but content in general. So it could be video, it could be social media, it needs to be something. So the volume of content I think needs to be consistent, but I need to start moving to other platforms, other forms, and not just content for the sake of making content, but content that will actually result in money, right? So there's some places where you can go to make content, like you go to TikTok and you're like, you can dance and stuff, and that's great. But if the content doesn't in the end produce something of value, then that's not a place to go and hang out and to invest my time. So that is what I have really been thinking of. And that's one of the things that I really took away from the conference. The next thing that, that maybe, I guess there are two things that I really internalized and have been chewing on since I came home, is that one, video needs to be a bigger focus of my business. And then two, Um, I think I know more than I think I do. And I don't necessarily need to know more about SEO or about websites or about social media or about funnels or about I mean, it's great to keep learning, right? I'm not going to say that I should just stop and like say I'm good, like good enough, I'm done, like the oven is done, you're like ding and turn off. um, I don't know where I was going with that analogy. Anyway, is that I don't necessarily have to know more though to feel confident and to execute on strategies. There were a lot of people during the SEO panel, because there was an SEO panel at the conference, who were asking questions that I felt like I knew the answer to, or that I would at least be able to say with some degree of, to argue with them about it. And these were folks with gigantic portfolios or gigantic projects or very successful projects that were making a lot of money, and say, okay, the, maybe I do belong at this table. Like maybe I have earned a seat at this table, and it's good for my imposter syndrome. It's good for my confidence, which has always been sort of lacking in this industry. I always like, I'm old, coming to this too late. The gold rush has passed, and it's like trying to catch up. And this newfangled stuff y'all kids are doing. You know, but it was just a great reminder that we don't necessarily have to know everything to be successful and to build a successful project. I think what these other folks had that I did not have was time in. A lot of these sites were very mature. So folks who come in and they work on a site for 6 months and they're like, man, I don't understand. I'm upset. I'm bored. I'm frustrated. It's such a grind. I mean, these people have been going at this for 10, 15, even 20 years. And the expectation that a site will succeed and be crushing it for, within 6 months to a year is just really unrealistic. And some of the chatter was maybe that the time of niche websites has passed. And I think that potentially the time of building a niche website and blasting links at it and having it be easy, 6 months to a year, has passed, except for in rare situations where folks that I would say are experts. But I still think that as somebody who is brand new to the space could come in and start a site and be successful, it's just going to have to be more realistic, more like a business. And I talked about the shoe shop, but nobody would go out there and set up a shoe shop and expect to be profitable in a month, expect to be retiring within 6 months. Like it's just that part of it, of this space, that makes this a side hustle or easy or something that people would get into because they followed some clickbait. Like that part, it's probably closing off, and maybe rightly so, right? And maybe that's good for the rest of us who are willing to dig in and really stick it out, because the playing field will be, smaller. That wouldn't hurt me at all. But it was just good to be in that moment and have that moment and come home and say, okay, maybe my strategy before of just publishing as much content as possible and investing as much as I can as possible, maybe that is sunsetting. Maybe that is no longer the right strategy. But looking at this as a 5 to 10 year plan, or even 10 to 15-year plan, versus looking at it from 0 to 12 months, which is often what I'm looking at for projects. Like you start a new site, and then by 12 months, is it a success or not? That's no longer realistic or needs to be the plan. And so reorienting our perspective and our expectations to something that is more long term is probably going to need to happen for a lot of folks who are, one, coming in, or two, who are in their first year or 2 years of this business. It's just, we need to just stretch out that timeline for when we can expect things to be successful. And I think that's going to be part of the recipe to sticking around. I'm going to the chat. Josh is talking about Humix and about ownership of content. Eric's talking about Humix, how the tool might generate additional URLs to the site. And folks are talking about that. I'm scrolling video sitemap. People haven't tried it out. Yeah, I am actually testing out Mix right now. That was one of the things. Like, you can't just sit through a conference and have them introduce a tool and then be like, I'm not going to use that. Why bother? So I did come home from the conference and make a batch of videos and loaded them up. And I'm planning on trying to do a run of videos in the next couple of months to just get some significant assets up there so that I can actually speak on the tool with some experience, because it's easy to say, yeah, this works, or yeah, this didn't, or so-and-so said this or that, but I wanted to know for myself how it works. And so far uploading videos has been like medium easy. There's still some bugs sometimes that the uploader, will freeze or won't load, or it takes a little while for the video to process, or the thumbnails don't show up right away. So I think they're still working through the bugs on it, but I mean, it's cool to start working with something new as people are just getting to the platform. And then I'm really curious to see what, if anything, I can make with it. There's our friend Graham. What's going on? Game guy. He says he's lurking and working, so he will be quiet today. And I say, that's all right. You're always welcome to sit in the back and lurk and work. I am going to ask the lurkers and workers and those of you who are active to hit the like button, because all it does is make me feel fuzzy. I don't think it does anything. I really don't know that YouTube actually takes those into account, but I still like it. I don't know. Maybe I just need that dopamine like hit, like it's real-time dopamine coming from my friends in the chat right now. What I am looking for, and I have not seen a ton of yet, is some accountability statements from folks who want to say, here's what I got done this week. Here is the challenge. How are you managing the recent flogging from Google updates? We know that Sonia improved, which is awesome. I will say that the only sites I'm really paying close attention to are, for me, the Mega site and the Fight site. And the Mega site is down pretty big. And the Fight site is bouncing up and down. And so I won't know necessarily for, maybe for a couple of weeks to see truly what the impact has been, because one day it's like this and the next day it's like this. And so one day I'm like, hey, and the next day I'm like, woo. So we'll just have to see. But I'm guessing if things trending the way they are, that the Mega site's going to be down maybe 30%. And you look at like the graph, right? Like the graph going up, 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 and then the spikes and then down. Like it kind of looks like it's settling, honestly, to where the site was a year ago, last fall, right around this time. And while that feels bad, right? That does not feel good. I think the upside is that it could have been a lot worse. It still could get a lot worse. The site still could recover. And looking at it from the other side, the perspective that I still have a site that makes at least $2,000 a month on that project. And assuming things don't get worse, it's still not a bad asset to have in the portfolio. I'm definitely not diving into it yet to try to figure out what's going on and what's happening, because I don't feel like it's a good investment in my time, because tomorrow it might be different. I saw a tweet or a post or something Sean Mars posted about deleting his rank tracker for as a result of this, and I did delete the file for that particular site. So I'm not watching the keywords for the site. I don't know if things are all red or if it's the snippets or what, because I don't think whatever's happening is all done yet. And it just seems like such a waste of my time to try to figure it out right now, because tomorrow it might be different. So I'm taking a page out of my own advice, which is just continuing to post content to that site and to my other sites, and to continue working on video. And I think it's going to work out one way or another if I just keep going. That's my advice. Anybody's like, what should I do? And I say, you just should keep going. Keep going. Eric says he agrees with me. If you want a sustainable niche website, one needs to get onto the video wagon. I just think in business in general, the video just has to be a component in some way. Everybody eventually will need to have some sort of stream of income. Like that needs to be one of our streams that is focused on video in some way. And maybe that will help shore up, just help people weather these really difficult times with Google, having alternate streams that are coming from other places that aren't being influenced by Google updates. Leslie says that they have a channel and it is excruciating at times. Yes. So much. Yes. Josh says, not perfect. He says he's critical, but real data matters to him. I feel similarly. Keith says that one person used to comment on his early YouTube videos complaining that he didn't blink enough. How dare you? And this is me blinking. Ready? You know, and I my vision is so bad that when I do that, like I can't even really tell if my eyes are blinking on the video. Oh my goodness. I'm like super behind on the chat. I'm sorry. I got to talking and I totally let's see, focus. Y'all are hilarious. People talking about humics and about video with Ezoic, and Zach's like video plus social plus blog equals the future. I know, I just gotta wrap my head around it. I've been in denial. I would much rather sit behind a computer and write content or just outsource written content. And I just keep thinking if I just keep doing that, that if I ignore video, that eventually it will go away. And it's clear that that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Sonia says she has socials and blog, but doesn't like doing video. Yes. Yes. And then, you know, we don't necessarily have to be the face of it. You can outsource the face. You can do faceless videos. You can do Doodly. You could do use Canva, like the free version of Canva. They have video there where you can have B-roll like right in. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. It's just committing to another strategy. Eric says when he looks at YouTube comments, he often finds that people are just amazing and surprising. Yes, absolutely true. There are often times when people are actually quite genuine and nice, and the people who are not, well, there's a special place in hell for you, is all I have to say. Sonia says she's 26 and doesn't like creating video content. She's neither a millennial nor Gen Z. I don't know what you are. I'd say you are normal, because that is most people. Eric has to go. He will watch it later. I say, Eric, when you catch this on the replay, it's good to have you. It's good to have you back. Be safe. Zach says the format may change, but there will always be a need for quality niche content. Yeah, I struggle with the word quality, because quality can mean so many things. Quality can mean amazing. Quality can mean decent. Quality can mean answers the question. I just don't feel like I have a good handle yet on what quality means. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I think that a lot of people don't either. And everybody's making a lot of assumptions and speculations what quality actually means, first of all, to the user, and then also to Google. And I just don't necessarily understand how it is that Google knows, the algorithm knows that something is quality. That's something I'm still thinking about, because I'm not confident yet that Google knows what quality means. Dee said, I thought you were cutting out the coffee. Clearly not. Not today, anyway. Said, how easy were the videos to create, upload? Well, the video creation process for me is generally awful, but uploading them using Humex was extremely easy. I mean, YouTube is pretty easy. You just go into YouTube Studio and then you click upload and then fill out all the little deals, and it was a lot like that. Actually, it was faster. John says he's taking out the trash. Dee says, have you put your face on them? I actually didn't. I was actually experimenting with some faceless videos, because why not? I mean, it's time, right? It's time to figure out how to use the platform and what can work and what I want to say get away with. But in my mind, that's kind of what I'm thinking is what will actually create an additional stream for me, and what is the minimum viable product versus what is excellent. And maybe I know people are going to jump on me in the comments like, stop thinking minimum viable product, you should be thinking quality. But I guess that's where my head is at right now. That's where my mindset is at. There's only so much time in the day when you have kids, family. You can look at my house, like clearly like not organized. Like there's only so much time in the day, and I got to figure out what I can get done and what it will produce. And maybe that's why I'm not Scrooge McDuck swimming in money right now. Josh says he got 9 posts done this month and about 20,000 words, finally pushing past 300K on the site and prepping for a large Q4. Well done. Dee said regarding the update, she got a horrendous flogging. That sounds like very much somebody from the UK would say, or British person would say, horrendous flogging. I really don't think I've ever heard anybody in the States put horrendous and flogging together in a sentence. That makes it sound awful. And 301, an old domain to a new one. John says that his plan is 3 articles a day for the next 18 months. So John has started a new case study and is talking about it on Twitter. It makes you sound very serious, like a very serious SEO. His goal is 1,500 articles in the next 18 months. I think that's great. That is awesome. Sonia says she's got 20 posts done this month. We'll rest and then push on to another 20 in November. Maeve rolling in. How are you doing? Maeve, I am curious how things are rolling for you with this algorithm update. I know that you got hit reasonably hard in previous ones, and just seeing how this last week has been going for you. Just Yassine, I really hope that I pronounced that correctly, which is it got hit by the spam update. Impressions down from 40,000 to 7, and clicks down dramatically. But the CTR jumped from 4% to 8%. So that is a reasonably large hit. But the clicks, I mean, they're down, but they're not down like to 0. It just looks like a lot of the articles that either were indexed are not. So the stuff that wasn't getting traffic before is either not getting impressions at all because it's not in the index anymore. And the reason the CTR would go up is because you just have fewer articles down, and they're showing up in the SERPs, but they're either down at the bottom of page 1 or on page 10 somewhere below. So the buried articles aren't getting impressions anymore. Leslie said this would be a good niche, aiming at helping introvert and niche website builders create videos. I actually have a good friend already who is doing that. His name's John Davis. He was one of the first people I interviewed here on my YouTube space. He's, I would say, an expert. He's very well versed at creating faceless videos, and that's pretty much his YouTube channel. He's an avowed introvert that hates putting his face on video and has really experimented with video and becoming confident on YouTube. So if you see him, John Davis, I mean, I'm sure if you search YouTube, there'll be many John Davises, but that's his shtick, is just like helping introverts make videos. Dee says regarding YouTube haters is don't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't ask for feedback from. You know, somebody said that. It's like really profound advice. And Travel dropping in. She says, so nice to be here, and it's always nice to have you, Anne. Says, I do not think Google knows quality either. Zach says, I don't see quality from a Google standpoint. Quality content is based on user experience, as measured by what? As measured by time on page, as measured by, like, what's the measurement? Did they get their answer? I mean, you just need more than it's good. Like, what do I got to do here? Like, is it like song and dance? Like wear a costume and like play the maracas? Like, what is it? Game Guy says that his wife and he both suffer from depression. He says, as a rule, he only leaves kind of supporting comments. Same. Says, I know my wife for some days. A kind word from a stranger made her day bearable. That's such a nice thought, though, that you could go around and actually change someone's life by just being nice. That's the reason that you tried to leave so many nice comments. And we do appreciate you, our friend Game Guy, who is here in our community and is always, I would say lurking, but checking out videos and being so encouraging. And that's why I love having you in the comments of these live streams. It's just great to have people who have a really positive energy and who are really just trying to do their best to be a good person. So I love that. Zach says you can have both the minimum viable product mindset and focus on quality. Yeah, I just got to figure out the balance, man. I just got to figure it out. He said, just don't make quality synonymous with perfect. That's where people go wrong. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Bevan Austin says, is 10 posts per month enough? And I have to say enough for what? Enough for Going to $0 to $10,000 a month in 12 months? No, it's not. Is 10 posts a month enough to start a site from scratch and grow it into something that will actually be earning income within 12 months? I think the answer is yes. I just don't think it will be thousands of dollars. 10 posts a month is if that's the most that you can do, then it's enough, right? Like folks that have jobs, 2 jobs, they have families, they have health conditions, they have other commitments, they volunteer, they go to church, they go to softball, they, all of the things, right? People should just get done what they can get done. And I mean, it's awesome if it could be more, but if it's not more, then that's all right. It's enough. So I need to know what it is your goals are to say if you think that 10 posts, is it enough or not? Maeve said she was not hit by this one. That's awesome. Josh says, and it's a good point, says just not quitting is enough. There's no base number. He said it much more succinctly than I did. Thank you, Josh. Josh also says that he thinks Google uses more inequality than we think of, like the next Google search by the person. D has got to run before the light goes. Yes, go work out. That you will never hear me say, don't do that. Stay here and not go get some exercise. Go get some exercise. Josh says that there might be metrics that we never see. That's something to think about. I mean, let's face it, Google's doing all kinds of things that we don't know about, that we will never see. And it's probably being done by Skynet, right? Like this is the birth of Skynet as we know it. And we're on our way to being taken over by a rogue robot enforcement agent from the future. Let's face it, it's happening. Zach said, what's the measurement? Love that question. For now, I'm mostly using time on page and pages per session, but those aren't great metrics for this. I'm trying to incorporate user feedback as well. That was one of the questions that came up at the conference was like, what is the value of time on page? And historically, we've looked at time on page as a positive number. Like the longer time someone's on the page, that would mean potentially that the content was really good, that the user found value and was continuing to read because the page was so good. That it would also give ads time to refresh, so you could get additional ads, or maybe you would cycle to the next video on the video player. People will go out of their way to try to keep people on the page as long as possible by using long images, so people would have to continue to scroll, versus putting images, square or even horizontal. It's just, I know that's something that John Dykstra did for a long time. It's just like, I like to put long images on so people have to continue to scroll, because for a large site, even increasing the time on page by maybe a couple of seconds could make a difference in revenue in the end. And one of the comments that I've heard recently from folks just about the helpful content update is that time on page could mean to the algorithm that the user isn't finding what they're looking for, and they're looking to move more towards getting the user the answer to their question right away. And so if somebody is scrolling down to the bottom, that could mean that user can't find what it is that they're looking for. And I thought that was a really interesting way to flip that time on page situation on its head. The same way that I think that people put way too much stock in bounce rate, because they'll look at a website and be like, oh, like a website to purchase or to sell, like, I got to get that bounce rate down. Google, my bounce rate is like in the 90s, and like, that's bad. And I say, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Users that bounce back to the SERPs could be bouncing back because you answered their question, and that's a good thing. So, again, I mean, it'd be great if all the things meant what they used to mean and what we think they mean, but I think that's why we got to really look at and pay attention to what is changing all right. You can see that I've been completely derailed by this whole time on page thing, because I've really been thinking about this a lot, and like what to do and how to do, because there's been so much focus on like writing really long form content, and having to make the switch to maybe something that's shorter and serves that quick like bite. Sort of goes against some of the stuff that we've all learned for so long. Like short content could be considered thin content, and short content might not be the most valuable because there might not be enough ads on the page to keep the RPM high or to give the video player a chance to roll. So it's just a lot to think about. I'm just going to leave my discombobulated rant right there. Zach says, he says, that's why I'm using heat maps and session recordings to see what the time on page really means. Microsoft Clarity is awesome. I've not gone down the road of heat maps. My gosh. There's our friend Tony from Simplified Gardening. How are you doing, friend? Did you survive? Are you surviving this week unscathed? Did you have an improvement? All of our friends would love to know how that is playing out. I definitely would. I do want to say before I wrap up that one of the side benefits of running the Humix player, because I have enabled the setting that allows Humix to play other people's videos, just so you can share the revenue in that, is that it shows you what videos are getting played consistently on the site. And so my plan is actually to go and, I don't want to say copy the video, but make my own version of that video. So if these videos are considered related by Humix, by the Ezoic player, and they're going to play it on my site, I might as well make my own video. And then instead of sharing the revenue, just get all the revenue, assuming that Ezoic will play my own video instead of their video. So that's kind of fun to scroll through the videos, just see what other people are creating, and then what is being considered to be relevant or relatable on the site, and what I'm earning money from. So that is another sort of side benefit of engaging in Humix. Tony says, Tonya, I see Tony and Sonia. He says that Tony's escaped the update, but maybe due to seasonality. Well, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's all good, smooth sailing into Q4, and you make lots of monies. Sonia says that her tier 1 traffic is still at 42%. So not necessarily what we were hoping to see right away, but again, the whole goal of all the new content is to increase that tier 1 traffic to, as far as it goes, to the moon, to try and once again reapply to the ad network that you would like to be in. Margaret says the sneaky Humix tip, she likes it. One site that has, I just wanted to say before I wrap, that has not been impacted by either the September updates or the October updates, and I'm not necessarily sure why that is yet, but my Otis Global age domain case study is rock solid. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm going to switch to it right now, and I'm not going to show you because it's private, but you know, like the Mega site and the legal site are bouncing around, and this one in the last week has actually grown a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit, like 2% in the last week. So while my other stuff is bouncing around, you know, and I said this before in September, but this site seems to be solid. It's 14 years old, and it may turn into my primary focus in 2023 if the other stuff just continues to bounce around so much, to actually have something that is solid. And you could say, why is that? Is it links? Is it established authority? The site has about 100 posts on it right now, so it's not super deep topically, but that is the one primary difference between this Otis Global domain versus my other domains. The Mega site and the Fight site are both newer domains. So the Mega site will be 2 years old by the end of this year, and then the Fight site is only will only be 18 months old by the end of this year, versus one that is 14 years old and seems to be sailing through. So I don't know what to take from that yet. I'm not going to be opining any sort of conclusory anythings. I will say, though, for folks that are saying that this update has been aimed at AI content, that site, the Otis Global site, is, I would say, 50 to 75% content that was created with Jasper. So just something to think about. Friends, I'm checking the time. I got to roll out here in a minute. I did, because I started a little bit earlier today, managed to stream for almost an hour, and it was great to be here. And I can see people starting to head out because they got to go. Also, we'll be back here next week. I wish that I had myself all together to have the annual Halloween stream. We've done the Halloween stream 2 years in a row, but maybe we'll have to focus on doing a Christmas party or something, or a holiday party all all celebrations invited. All right, friends, I gotta go. I look forward to speaking with you next week. I look forward to hearing your updates, what you have worked on. I will do my best to continue to work and create content, meet my goals. You too. All right, take it easy. See you later. Cheers. Ciao. What are the things that people say? Goodbye.